Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and good afternoon everyone. Welcome to our video by Group 9. Our topic is Language Contact 2, Pidgins, Creoles, and New Englishes. Before that, let me introduce the member of Group 9. The first is Muhammad Dafa Syafan, the second is Lutfia Kalsum, the third is Andi Asfati Alisa, the fourth is Hairunisa Sidik, and the last is me, Melinda. Okay, the first is introduction. In this chapter, we look at the extreme kind of contact which result in the new languages. Under slavery especially, people were able neither to maintain their ancestral languages nor to shift to the colonial language. Instead, they created new languages, such as Pidgin and Creoles, that were only partly based on the languages around them. And this chapter is also concerned with the structure of these languages and their similarities in different parts of the world. We examine the major explanation put slavery especially that gave rise to the Pidgins and Creoles is concerned with the acquisition and spread of language that have come to be called New Englishes. Okay, next is Pidgins and Creoles. The technical term from the language exemplified here is Pidgins. The example is from Cameroon Pidgins English, given by Loreto Todd. The discipline of Pidgins and Creole studies, sometimes called Creolistic, essentially deals with new code arising from the rearrangement of people who once were a part of separate linguistic tradition. Okay, next is about Pidgins. Pidgins in the Indonesian language disebut Pidgin. Pidgin merupakan ragam bahasa yang tidak memiliki penutur asli atau tidak memiliki daerah asal. Biasanya ragam bahasa ini ditemukan di negara-negara dunia ketiga yang dulunya merupakan negara-negara jajahan atau koloni. Ragam bahasa ini tumbuh karena ada dua pihak yang saling berkomunikasi dan kedua belah pihak tersebut berasal dari negara atau daerah yang berbeda-beda, sehingga mereka harus berkomunikasi satu sama lain. Mereka tidak menggunakan bahasa ketiga atau biasa yang kita sebut bahasa internasionalnya kita itu bahasa Inggris. Nah, mereka tidak menggunakan bahasa itu, melainkan mereka menggabungkan kedua bahasa mereka. Ragam bahasa ini biasanya digunakan sebagai alat komunikasi antar imigran dan orang-orang lokal atau penduduk asli, sehingga keduanya dapat saling mengerti tanpa harus mempelajari bahasa dari kelompok lain. Itu penjelasan singkat mengenai Pidgin. And about Creoles atau dalam bahasa Indonesia disebut Creole adalah Pidgin yang dipakai dari waktu ke waktu atau dari generasi ke generasi. Pada saat orang dewasa menggunakan Pidgin sebagai bahasa perantara, sekelompok anak atau cucu mereka, atau secara sederhana, ketika orang tua kita menggunakan bahasa Pidgin, maka kita sebagai anak akan menggunakan bahasa tersebut sebagai bahasa turun-temurun atau generasi ke generasi. Sehingga mereka memperoleh bahasa tersebut sebagai bahasa ibu atau bahasa asli mereka. Karena itu, Creole biasa diibaratkan sebagai anak atau cucu atau bahasa yang telah digunakan atau bahasa yang digunakanlah secara turun-temurun. Itu tadi penjelasan singkat mengenai Creole. Oke, next is kita akan membahas mengenai Pidgin. The formation of a Pidgin differs from the process of second language acquisition, during which one of the first languages of a group is gradually learned by others. Pidgins, by contrast, are not necessarily targeted at one of the pre-existing languages, since the main aim of speakers is to enable communication rather than to learn another language. In terms of structure, they do not be a close resemblance to any of the languages in contact. So they draw vocabulary items from these languages. Bahasa Pidgin secara singkat atau secara singkat merupakan pembelajaran bahasa yang dimulai dari negara Afrika, di mana di perkebunan para budak dipertemukan dalam satu tempat, di mana budak tersebut berasal dari daerah-daerah yang berbeda. Oleh sebab itu, para budak tersebut membentuk bahasa baru atau gabungan dari bahasa mereka sendiri. Sehingga mereka harus saling berkomunikasi satu sama lain. Variasi bahasa ini muncul dari proses fosilisasi dan konvensionalisasi. Seperti yang kita ketahui, jumlah bahasa Pidgin di dunia itu berjumlah lebih dari 100. Kebanyakan Pidgin ini dipengaruhi dari negara-negara atau bahasa-bahasa Eropa, pada umumnya yaitu Inggris, Spanyol, dan Prancis. Contoh ragam Pidgin yang paling terkenal itu ialah Pidgin Melanesia, seperti Tok Pisin di Papua Nugini, yang sekarang sudah beralih menjadi Kreol. Selain itu, ada juga yang disebut Bislama. Bislama ini berasal atau ada di Vanuatu, dan Pidgin ini di Solomon Island. Bahasa Pidgin ini dipengaruhi oleh bahasa Eropa, seperti yang sudah saya katakan tadi, seperti Inggris, Jerman, Portugis, dan Melayu.
Pidgin structures and theories of their origin. Pidgin vocabulary. Polysemy. Shadow, soul, reflection, beef, meat, animal, water, lake, river, spring, tear, belly, stomach, seat of emotions. Multifunctionality. A single word may be put to variety of basic grammatical uses in Pidgin. Thus, in talk, piecing a word like sick functions as both noun and adjective. My sick, am I sick? Am I got big fella sick? He has got a terrible disease. Romain, 1988-38. Such multifunctionality may be carried over into a Creole, as is shown with the word sick in Suriname, a Creole English of Suriname. In this language, sick may be used as noun and adjective, as in the talk piecing examples, but also as intransitive verb, to be ill, and as transitive or causative verb, to make someone ill. Circumlocution. Grass belong face, beard. Grass belong head, hair. Grass belong eyebrow. Wara belong skin, sweat. Sweat. Pinja belong leg, toe. Pela belong up bottle opener. Compounding. Abstractions may be indicated by compounding in Pidgins, as in the following talk piecing forms, which we can see here. Big mouse, conceited, literally big mouth. Compounding may also be used systematically to denote gender of nouns. House, man, stallion. Grammatical structure. Pidgins are often described in terms of what structures they lack, rather than how many features they share with other languages. For example, Pidgins have very few suffixes and markers of categories that are mandatory in the input languages. Tense often has to be inferred from context in many Pidgins, such as before my salam, past is sell for $10, for $10. I sold it for $10.
Theories of the origins of Pidgins. Several theories have been put forward to account for the similarities between Pidgins that have developed in various places and at different times. This can be broadly grouped into three types. The first one is monogenetic theories. The second one is theories of independent parallel development. And the last one is theories of linguistic universals. Creoles. Creoles are languages which develop out of pidgins to become the first language of a speech community. Pidgins and creoles arise out of a diversity of circumstances, including certain types of trade, some situation of war, and large-scale movements of people. We shall sample some of these below. However, as the majority of creoles are spoken in former slaveholding societies, it is necessary to give a fairly detailed account of this form of labor. Creole structures and theories of their origin. Creolization turns a pidgin into a fully fledged language, essentially indistinguishable from non-Creole languages. Vocabulary may be expanded by using words from substrate and especially from the superstrate. More complex phonological rules developed than may be found in pidgins.
Well, I want to explain the next material about theories of creolization. Pidginization is second language learning with restrict input, while creolization is first language learning with limit input. The term input refers to the range of expression from a target language that learner is exposed to. Learning a restricted pidgin as part of the one secondary linguistic repertoire poses no problem for an individual's development. A major part of Bickerton's argument was that the creoles he had studied were all similar in structure, irrespective of the diversity of language that went into their making. He set out a list of the 12 grammatical structures that he believed to become common to creoles, but not to non-creoles. These were therefore likely candidates for the natural grammar contained in the biogrammar. Three such features are outlined below: multiple negation, zero copula, reduplication, and the next is serial verbs. The next material is defining characteristics of new varieties of English. Platt et al. Used the term New English for a variety that satisfies the following criteria. It has developed in an era where English is not spoken as a first language by a large number of people. It has developed through the education system rather than being accurate initially as a language of the home. It is used for a range of functions. It has become indigenous by adapting words from local culture and nativized by establishing some structural feature associated with local language. There are some problems with this characterization, notably in its narrowness. The definition includes, for example, the English of Aboriginal Australians on the grounds of the being of majority of first language speakers in the country. Critics also point out that the term new is misleading since English in India has a longer history than in Australia and New Zealand, yet the latter are not considered New English. There are even more serious theoretical objections which we discuss below. English has been used as a medium of communication for centuries in countries like India, Sri Lanka, the Philippines, Nigeria, and Ghana. Some scholars argue that just as color exists as a class of language with a defined set of socio-historical and add linguistic characteristics, so do new Englishes. And the next material is variation within new Englishes. One reason why new Englishes might well repay being studied as a separate group is that they are typically made up of a continuum of subvarieties, rather like that of a Creole clearly in contact with this super trait. At one end of this continuum, New Englishes have formed close to the English of the former colonials in terms of structure and pragmatism. The greatest divergence from L1 norms being essentially a fossilized from originally characteristic of users who had limited opportunities of learning and using the colonial language. Still other varieties show intermediate levels of approximation to target language norms and L1 proficiency. Plant has suggested that the subvarieties be labeled in the same way as the main points of a post-Creole continuum.
Globalization and the further expansion of English. Three-circle model of Brach-Cattreau used the term world Englishes to cover the sum total of English on the planet. Conceptualize them as belonging to one of the following three circles: inner circle, outer circle, and expanding circle. Globalization and the increasing use of English in vehicle have a main outer circle contributes certain common change and challenge. These include culture erosion, the face Western technology and commercialism, and the possible decline and loss of local language in the long term. Paradoxically, English is the main medium via which the culture of India, China, and Brazil. Three name country global economic player become now the rest of the world. Oke, bahasa Inggris bisa menghubungkan berbagai negara di dunia karena bahasa Inggris adalah bahasa internasional di sebagian besar di negara dunia. Sebagian besar negara-negara Asia juga menggunakan bahasa Inggris sebagai medium of interaction, yaitu negara Filipina, Malaysia, dan belajar bahasa Inggris akan baik memudahkan kita untuk menyerap semua informasi global di era globalisasi sekarang ini. Okay, next conclusion. Pidgin and crows are no longer seen as linguistic characteristics and protective form of European language. There is nothing is the structure of systematic capacity of crows, and even an extended pidgin that prevent them for being used in formal domains, including education, administration, and government. Tok Pisin, for example, is one of three official language of Papua New Guinea, the others being English and Hirimotu and native Pidgin language. Pidgin dipelajari sebagai bahasa kedua atau bahasa untuk memfasilitasi komunikasi, dan sementara Creole diucapkan sebagai bahasa pertama. Creole memiliki kosakata yang lebih luas daripada Pidgin dan struktur tata bahasa yang lebih kompleks. Pidgin biasanya memiliki tata bahasa yang berbeda dan sederhana. Bahasa Pidgin berubah menjadi Creole, seperti contohnya no good, tidak bagus, by and by, segera, kill him atau kill him, bunuh dia. This chapter also focused on the varieties of New English that emerged in different parts of the colonist world. They differ from Pidgin and Creole in that degree of restructuring they exhibit is not great. However, paradoxically, this makes the date of these New English templates less clear for official recognizing as their own language. They remain largely dependent on the norms established by the metropolis, London, Washington, and so on. Ketika orang-orang dari latar belakang yang berbeda bertemu, mereka perlu berkomunikasi menggunakan bahasa tertentu sebagai lingual France atau bahasa pergaulan. Tapi bahasa Inggris sekarang adalah bahasa dunia waralaba, dan saat ini bahasa Inggris dituturkan oleh orang-orang yang hampir setiap bagian bahasa global dunia. Yang menariknya adalah bahasa Inggris menyebar begitu luas.